I decluttered 1,000 things in 1 week. Here's how I did it. Okay, let's just back up for a second real quick, because first of all, I know the thumbnail shows a big dumpster. And before you guys come at me in the comments, I want you to know that the thumbnail was for effect. Okay, don't hate the player, hate the game. That's how YouTube works. I did not throw away all 1,000 items that I decluttered in this video. I will talk about how I decided what was donated, what was passed on, and what was actually trashed later in this video. And two, yes, 1,000 items is a lot of stuff. And we are going to talk about how transformative this challenge was to me in facing stuff that I had bought that I did not need, that was just clutter. It was truly an eye-opening experience for me, even as someone who is generally good at decluttering. Okay, now that we've cleared the air, let's dive into this. I have seen a lot of decluttering challenges, and one that I always loved the idea of, but never did, was the 30-day challenge. This is also referred to as the 30-day minimalism game, and it was created by the minimalists. This is where you declutter one thing on day 1, 2 things on day 2, 3 days on day 3, all the way up to 30 days. And at the end, it would equal out to have decluttered 465 items. And I've just always liked the idea of that challenge, but for some reason I saw it and I was like, you know what, that's cool, but what about 1,000 items? Why not? You always got to push it to the next step. You know what I mean? So anyways, I did some quick math. For the sake of transparency, when I say I did quick math, I mean ChatGPT did quick math. And I realized that if I took the 30-day challenge and I reworked it, I could get to 1,000 items. And the way I did this was with 50 buckets, essentially. So there were 44 buckets, each bucket following a sequence that increased by 1. So like 1 and then 2 and then 3. That would give me 990 items. Then I added 6 more buckets to make 50 buckets altogether, making it 1,000 items. And I got to decluttering. Every time I decluttered a space, I counted up what I had decluttered in that space, or I categorized it into like items, and then I filled in the corresponding circle. So first, let's talk about why declutter? Why do such a huge declutter? Why did I want to do such why did I have to take it from 465 up to 1,000? For me, the truth is it's a season of life thing. In the past 6 years, I have had 4 babies, and I'm pretty sure I'm closing the door on the baby season of my life with my 4th. And it feels a lot like closing a door, but also moving into a new season. And I was sort of anxious about having a clean slate for moving into this next season, if you want. A cleanish slate. As a family of 6 with 4 small kids, we definitely have acquired an excess of just like knickknacks and random items that could totally be decluttered, not to mention all of the baby stuff that I am no longer saving for the next baby. For the past 6 years, I was always able to say, well, I'll keep this for the next baby, but since I am pretty sure I'm closing that door, there was an excess of baby stuff. Now, you guys know that I am all about little daily declutters. This is what I live and die by, but I still find that sometimes you have to do the big purges. Typically, when there's a shift in seasons of life, it's a really prime time to do that. So along with sort of moving in my seasons of life, I've also been changing my spending habits, getting really honest with myself about my stuff. And that has additionally made me really want to par back, really thinking about cutting the fat and the excess out of my stuff, if you will. And so I wanted to challenge myself, to really push myself, to really think about everything I really, truly need. Not to mention, with 4 kids, there's already enough noise and clutter and stuff in my life. And so I just wanted to remove that excess. And I knew by making it 1,000 items, it would really force me to push the envelope to not get wishy-washy on things like, oh, maybe I'll need this, because I'm a pretty good declutterer, like in my day-to-day life, but I needed the push to help when it came down to some of those things that had just been lingering in my life, those things that maybe I really didn't need. I was getting to this point in my home, I felt like, where my regular decluttering wasn't getting through all of it. Too many little things were just lingering and were not making their way out of my life or getting donated in my normal daily cluttering. Basically, as I decluttered things, I was checking them off. And as I went through them, here are some of the best tips that I learned. This is definitely probably the biggest declutter I've ever done in my life. And these are the best tips that I learned. 1, having a declutter bin was really key when doing this challenge. I kept this bin in my living space, so whenever I came across a random item to declutter, I could throw it in here. When it got full, I would count and categorize it, throwing away trash and then getting donate items to where I was donating them. This was really helpful in the process, and honestly, honestly, I think I might just keep a bin like this in my life all of the time now. So a note on that, by the way, when it comes to categorizing, is I found as you go through your stuff, in my experience, you're going to come across 5 different kinds of items. You're going to have your donate giveaway items. You're going to have your trash items. You're going to have your recycle items. You're going to have your store away items, and you're going to have your put away items. The last 2 items are not things you're decluttering, but as you declutter, you're going to tend to them. So you're either going to store things away. These are things that don't need to be. So maybe like when you're going through your kids' clothes, if you have clothes you're saving as hand-me-downs for your next kid, you're going to store those away. The put away category is for the things that have a home, but they just need to get put away. So as you are decluttering, you can go ahead and take the stuff that's not trash, donate, recycle, and you can put it away where it belongs. That leaves us with donate. The problem with the donate section I found when it comes to decluttering is sometimes finding out how to donate or give things away can be a challenge. So luckily for us, our local church they do a huge tag sale in July. So I was able to take like 80% of the stuff for us that fit into the donate pile and just take it over there. I also, over time, have just found some local places that I know about that take books, that take clothing. So some of it may require asking around where other people donate things. There are no-buy groups on Facebook. I'm kind of new to them, but basically it's just a group of people who will post things that are free online. Sometimes we want to give things away to friends, and it's worth shooting a text to people, but I find that if it's going to make the item linger around for too long, or it's going to take too much of your time to really sort through it to get it to those people, just donating it is so much easier because it just allows it to come off of your space, especially if you're doing a really huge declutter, like 1,000 items. You don't want to be managing 8 million different piles for 8 million different people. What I find about doing a really big declutter like this is it's going to force you to address a lot of things. Where when you do little declutters day to day, it's usually a lot of like the more obvious stuff. It's like the easy things to declutter. Doing a big house declutter like this, you're going to have to make some bigger decisions. And when you do that, it is very easy to get decision fatigue from all of this. It's easy to get worn out in the process. So one, don't feel like this challenge needs to happen in a day. I took like 8 to 9 days to do the whole thing. I think it's important to take some breaks and come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes, because you will find that your brain does fatigue just from having to make decision after decision after decision about what to keep. I find personally that like the 1 to 2 weeks is a really great spot for this challenge because it's short enough that you don't lose momentum. You keep your motivation going from decluttering, but it's not too fast that you lose steam. And I do think that the momentum thing is really important, because the thing about decluttering, it is wildly motivating. It is going to give you some instant gratification. Like when you declutter a drawer and it's all nice and tidy, or you purge some random corner that you'd been avoiding for a while and it had been giving you stress, and it finally feels clear and calm. A lot of our clutter in our space is giving us stress, and we don't even realize that all these little piles are visual noise. They're reminding you of the things that you have to do or you haven't done yet. That can stress us out. And I think we can all relate to that feeling of like walking into a room or seeing a space that we've been neglecting and just instantly feeling on edge. And so using that momentum, that good feeling from decluttering a space and like keeping it going is really important. And as far as the decision fatigue, I have a handful of questions that I keep in my back pocket that I use when I'm doing ruthless declutters. I've tried a lot of questions over the years of decluttering, and these are my favorite ones. So the first one is, did I forget this existed? This is so simple and yet so powerful and effective. When we go to declutter, you're going to come across countless items that are useful and practical, and at first glance there is no reason to get rid of them, but this item can only be useful if you know where it is when you need to use it. We can justify so many items as being practical or being needed just in case that we will never actually use, because our brain is incapable of holding on to all of that information and inventory. So when I come across something that's useful or practical, but that was pushed to the back of a cupboard or like the back of a drawer, I first ask myself, did I forget this existed? And if my answer is yes, I usually get rid of it then. If I'm still wishy-washy, I might ask myself, okay, will I actually need this in the next 3 months? What I am trying to tease away from myself is the truth that even though this item could be good and useful and practical, I haven't used it, I forgot it existed, and I probably am not going to use it in the near future. It's making it easier for me to say, okay, I can part with this. I often remind myself that my home does not need to be a storage unit. I don't need to hang on to every valuable or handy item simply because it is handy or valuable. A really good example of this came up for me when I was decluttering in my kitchen. I have a handful of things that I use in my kitchen that I truly like, right? Gadgets or items that I legitimately find to be good. So this veggie chopper is the perfect example. I love this veggie chopper. It cuts, it dices, it slices. I genuinely like this item, but I almost never use it. Whether it was because I just didn't cook enough food that needed this item, or because I'm usually just in a rush that I grab a knife instead because I think it's faster, whatever reason, I don't know what it is because I legitimately like this item. I could only think of 2 or 3 times in the last year that I'd used it. And this is why decluttering can be so hard, because we can look at an item and deem it purposeful, but it might not be purposeful for us. So you really need to think critically about your stuff as it relates to your life. Sure, it's a really great item, but are you actually using it? Which is another tip to make sure that you're not keeping things for your fantasy self. Many of us buy things with good intentions for how we want to use it, or we see ourselves using it, or we see other people that we look up to using it, but it doesn't fit who we really are. Maybe it's stuff, I don't know, for like a hobby that we didn't ever actually pick up, or clothing that we thought that we'd wear, but it doesn't actually match our style or our lifestyle. Just give yourself permission to let go of these things. And this is easier said than done. It can be really hard because there is probably guilt associated with getting rid of these items, right? You bought this fitness thing because you thought you were gonna get fit, I don't know, but like you never actually started doing yoga or whatever. Remind yourself that 1, it is a gift to get rid of these things because they will no longer be sitting there taunting you, reminding you that you never use them. But also 2, there is someone out there who will use them and who will enjoy them, and you are giving that person a gift. The question that I ask here to help tease it away from myself is this an item for the life I live now or for a life I wish I had? Decluttering seems like such a simple thing at surface level, right? Just getting rid of our stuff, but it tends to dig up some emotions. You are forced to face all the stuff you have bought and acquired. You'll experience regret for the things you bought and never used. You're gonna feel shame for buying excess or things that you didn't need, remorse for getting rid of stuff, guilt for things that were gifted to you and you wanna get rid of, overwhelmed for not knowing like where all this stuff even came from in the first place and how you're ever gonna go through it. But you are also going to stir up positive emotions. You're going to feel satisfaction in seeing the results. You're going to feel empowerment for taking control of your space. You're going to feel calm from the tidier, less visually noisy space. Relief from finally letting go of things you've been holding on to. So what I say is try to lean into the good emotions when your challenging emotions sort of flare up. So when you feel shame, remind yourself of the calm that you're gifting yourself by parting with something. When you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself of the feeling of relief you will get from decluttering. When you feel regret, remind yourself of the empowerment of taking control of your space for what you need now, not for what somebody else needs and not for what you needed 10 years ago. Okay, a few other questions that I love to ask myself. The next one, would I wash poop off of it? This is such a great, like, down and dirty question, like literally and figuratively. I wish I could remember the source from where I heard this first, but it's stuck in my head and I use it all the time. Basically, I remember the story was this woman had a basement and like it got flooded with sewage somehow, and she had to ask herself if she cared about these items in her basement enough to wash poop off of them. I find this question especially helpful for those storage items, places like attics and basements, and like maybe you're just not getting through enough of it, or you're getting a lot of decision fatigue and you really can't decide what in that box or bin do you care about enough that you would wash poop off of it. And my final question is, would I buy this item again at full price? This is a really common one that comes up with decluttering, but I find that it can be really helpful. Specifically, I find it really good in your closet and when going through home decor stuff, specifically things that tend to follow trends. A lot of these items can linger simply because we own them, but trends come and go, and your personal style has changed and it will change. You don't need to keep something simply because it works. Part of what makes decluttering feel so wonderful is the feeling of having your space back when you're done, and it like physically feels lighter and easier. You feel in control, and it should match who you are now. So letting yourself go of something simply because it still just works but doesn't match you. So I was able to declutter 1,000 things from my home in about a week, and it was truly an amazing experience. Having the challenge of my buckets to check off really was super motivating, really pushed me to get rid of things that usually I would just kind of let linger or I would hang on to, but it really forced me to be ruthless. I used my little stockpile of questions, right? I'll put them in the description maybe so you can just reference them. There's, did I forget this existed? Will I need this in the next 3 months? Is this for the life I live now or for the life I wish I lived? Would I wash poop off of this? And would I buy this again at full price? This challenge really forced me to face some things. It forced me to face things about myself, about things that I was keeping that I truly didn't need, and to think about some of my personal buying habits, like why I even brought this stuff into my home in the first place. And I just wanted to end this video by saying that I truly appreciate you being here and taking this journey with me, not just the journey of this video, but the journey of my channel. I know some of you have been watching me for years. Some of you were here before I was a mom. Some of you were here before I was even married, and I have changed and grown and learned, and I just appreciate you being here with me on that journey, because I know that you probably have changed and grown and learned as well. And I really just try my best. What I keep always trying to come back to is just being as honest and realistic as I can about the stuff that I share, because I know there is a lot of noise online, and I don't want to claim to have it all figured out or like I've got the perfect solution. I'm trying to figure it out as I go, and then bringing you guys along and teaching you the lessons that I learn, the lessons that I get really excited about that really are changing my life. And I'm sure there are still so many lessons for me to learn, and I just hope that we can learn them together. This challenge was so great for me, and I really encourage you guys to try it for yourself. I have a printable version down below. I also created a version of the 30-day challenge if you want to do that instead. I highly suggest it. It was very eye-opening and transformative. But as always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Remember to be kind to yourself and others, and I will see you all in my next video.